Everybody, to what is becoming an absolutely beautiful afternoon here at Watkins Glen International Raceway, as we are at the season finale of the Pirelli World Challenge 2018 championship season. This is the Grand Prix of Watkins Glen, presented by TM Performance. Greg Creamer alongside Calvin Fish, and Ryan Marine will be covering the action in pit lane as we are getting set for the second to last round of the GT Championship, the premier division of the Pirelli World Challenge, round 8 of 9 on the season. Great to have all of you with us here. And coming into this weekend, there were some 15 championships that were yet to be decided after all the SprintX hardware had already been earned and won. A couple of them have since folded into place already, but still an awful lot to play for here, Cal, and these guys get to do it on one of the most amazing tracks in some of the most amazing cars. The grins in these helmets must be mega.
Or when you combine the grip level at Watkins Glen with the grip level of these GT3 machines, the cornering speeds are immense, and everyone enjoys being here at Watkins Glen. It's a traditional road course. It hasn't changed much over the years. It maintains its heritage, yet the speeds are just phenomenal as we start to look at some of the segments of this racetrack. But as you can see, those bright aqua blue Armco rails are not far away from the edge of the road, so it does have consequences if you do make a mistake.
Well, it's so quick here. There's so much grip, which means when it goes away, you exit the track at speed. Precision is important in an awful lot of this track. But setup, and also these cars so aero-dependent, obviously, you were talking about it, you can carry so much speed into and through the corners. It just makes it great fun, and we've already had some phenomenal qualifying and racing that's unfolded here.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying was sensational here this morning. Some really brilliant laps were put together, particularly by the Bentleys. We're looking at those guys right now. You see Baptista there in the bright blue color, number 3. He'll start from the pole position. Alvaro Parent, our 2016 champ, right behind him. So they have pace here. We expected that here on this configuration of racetrack. They've got good straightaway speed. It's a long wheelbase car. It excels in high-speed corners like we see here at Watkins Glen. So they're going to be awfully tough to beat here today.
Well, and that's it. You know, horses for courses. We've talked about it before, and obviously this track has those long duration fast corners, but there's other components to this track as well. You've got to have brakes that are very effective here, especially if you're going to pull off any kind of a pass. This track, you can also, it seems like even after it's been now a couple of years since they paved it, that first year in 2016, you could run anywhere on this track. You had grip. There's still multiple lines you can run. You see cars running unique patterns through these corners sometimes.
You do, and certainly having compliancy with the suspension over some of the curbs that we've just been looking at is important too, particularly through the inner loop. You know, running without exceeding track limits coming off of turn 1 is very important as well. So you'll see guys start to work people over and trying to look for a little edge, and gradually they'll just widen those radiuses and find a little bit more racetrack to use.
And if you find yourself coming up behind somebody, you get stuck there, you can't get through, you lose the air on the nose a little bit. Nice thing with these tires, if you back off just a little bit, get some air back onto the nose, they'll come back a bit. You can remount an attack. Oh,
you can. But I think you hit the nail on the head. These cars are super aero-sensitive, so with these high-speed corners, that's why qualifying was so important to get that track position, maintain it. So I think you'll see some guys who may be frustrated by their qualifying positions, maybe get a little bit more aggressive on these opening laps when there may be some opportunity to make some moves.
Big story here. That black machine, Acura, back, the NSX GT3 here, in kind of a joint operation between the real-time team, but the Honda America race team, Hart, that has been running it in some races in another championship, decided to come in here. They like what the BOP looked like, and it's great to have them here, and really looking forward to this one unfolding. And we are getting ready to get this field set up and on the way. And pit lane locked and loaded, it looks like. Everybody set to go. All right, and with that, let's get down to the front of the grid for that special command and Ryan Marine.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Whiteman from Honda Performance Development to give the command to start engines.
Drivers, start your engines.
And what a delight to hear this field come to life and know that there's that Acura NSX in it and ready to go here. Of course, they were fielded by Real Time in this championship last year as well. So nice to see that all come back. As we take a look at the field, as the camera pans upward, let's get to our Pirelli storylines. And, the Bentleys have been rocket quick here. But the big storyline, I think, Al, we have to start with the 2 points protagonists. early on in that qualifying session, things were looking a little tough for Scott Hargrove, and man, did he turn it around.
He really did, and we've seen that resiliency before this year, Greg. In the opening round at the championship, he crashed his race car in practice right before qualifying. What did he do? Put it on the pole and swept the weekend. We're looking at the 96 FAF Motorsports Porsche there. Scott Hargrove, he leads this sprint championship by 8 points over Tony Vilander, and critically, he qualified ahead of Tony in today's race.
And moved up the entire row. We talked about the passing and how tough it is. That was a mega moment. The interesting thing, too, another storyline here, Vilander already clinched the Sprint X Championship. 6 wins, spent an amazing season. Not one of them in Sprint. Is he due?
I know. I think he's due, and I think it's probably grating on him a little bit because it makes it look like Miguel Molina, his teammate in Sprint X, was the reason he won races. That's not the fact. They're equally as quick as one another. It's just coincidental that the R-Ferry Motorsports Ferrari has been brilliant this year, but has really excelled on the Sprint X rounds of the championship and the tracks there. And he was pretty strong yesterday. I think he's one of the guys, but he's got to be conservative thinking about the overall championship as well to get too aggressive here. But, yeah, he'll not be happy qualifying there on the third row of the grid today.
And we mentioned the fact that the NSX is back. That is such great news. But I think the story in many ways here is the speed of the Bentleys, and Ryan Marine in particular, one of them.
Yes, no doubt about it. Rodrigo Baptista, your pole sitter. Really impressive stuff from a guy who just got bumped up to the GT class midway through the season. His first career overall pole in Pirelli World Challenge GT competition, and it comes on a weekend, guys, that these Bentleys have been exceptionally quick. Between the qualifying and also the 2 practice sessions, they posted no times worse than 4th on the timesheets. Expect for Alvaro Perez and Rodrigo Baptista, your pole sitter, to be contending for a race win here today and again in race 2.
Yeah, they had that sort of little smirk on their face this whole weekend. But I think the story here is, here's Alvaro Perez, generally acknowledged as one of the best GT racers in the world. And Rodrigo Baptista was almost 0.6 of a second faster than he was.
It's amazing. It was just a brilliant lap. You just saw all the sectors go purple, and bam, he put a lap together that was not to be touched. He kept trying. He couldn't get near it. Alvaro tried to respond and eventually got bumped up. There's an all Bentley front row. Then Mancinelli, who won at Long Beach earlier this year, got that Ferrari on the front row. So Perez's going to be wanting to push. We talk about the pace of the Bentley. They've won 2 of the last. It's been a funny year for Alvaro Perez, but he's won 2 of the last 3 sprint rounds, so expect him to look for more here this weekend to finish off.
Yeah, he's definitely had speed. He's got the mojo. He just has some atrocious luck. Let's talk a little bit about Mancinelli. I talked to the TR3 guys, and I said, you know, you got a Ferrari in the other camp that's going for these championships and this and that. You going to help, or what's your plan here? I have to ask. And he said, well, we came here with the mindset to win. He said, but I guess officially I would have to tell you it hasn't been officially decided yet. But we came here with the mindset to win.
Well, I think fortunately for Dan, you see Tony, the red Ferrari is 3 positions back, so there's not a lot he can do to help him unless you're running line astern.
Exactly.
If Tony has a good start, Mancinelli had maybe a poor start, then maybe that would be more of a factor.
Absolutely. And our pole sitter, by the way, in the GTA category is Anthony Imperato, and only his second race in Pirelli World Challenge GTA competition, doing a nice job in the HenryUSA.com Porsche, and David Askew as well. But now we are ready to go. The BMW M-Power Pace vehicle will make its way into pit lane in this 50-minute round 8, penultimate round of the championship, about to unfold. And what's this front row going to do? Out of the final turn, watch for the pole sitter. The blue and dark blue machine, and there we go. And Mancinelli timed that beautifully as well, Gal.
Yeah, the Bentley, Baptista looked like he's going to have the edge as they hit the brake zone.
He does. Mancinelli has enough Hargrove outside of. Can he do it?
Oh, there may have been a little touch there between Alvaro and Scott Hargrove. There's going to be some argy-bargy up through the S's. Look at this. Relatively cold tyres right now. Those Pirelli P0s aren't up to temp, and Hargrove takes the position.
What an aggressive move. He understands the role and the mission here this weekend. And look at Christensen.
Vilander's been dropped another spot, and Farnbacher's all over the back of the red Ferrari as well.
And that's Mario Farnbacher driving that Acura NSX. First time through the inner loop. But little wiggle there from Farnbacher.
Oh, that looked really edgy there. High speed stakes at that point of the racetrack. Again, take about half to 3/4 of the lap for these tires to really start to generate some temp. Big loads around here, so it doesn't take as long as a typical racetrack.
Boy, and Perent got shuffled back. Christensen made that pass stick in that Allegra Porsche, and suddenly Perent, 3rd to 5th.
How unusual is that? Perent's normally the man on the move early. Dynamite on relatively cold tires, but just got shuffled there by Hargrove, and Christensen took advantage as well on the run to the inner loop.
It was interesting talking to the Porsche guys. They said, our car handles incredibly well. We're great on braking. We're good into the corners. And they said, but just the nature of the platform, we don't have quite the torque. Even in a high-speed corner, when you roll the throttle, that torque makes a little bit of a difference. And they said, that's our struggle. But, yeah, clearly those at least those rear tires come up to temp in a hurry.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, we saw Alvaro there on the coming off the heel of the boot. They get a little bit sideways, trying to get the power down, but they have got this car hooked up. Rodrigo Baptista, as Ryan mentioned, what a performance by this young man. Jumping up into the big leads. He has certainly taken to it very well. Just on the edge of the track limits during the drivers' meeting, they talked about, you'll know when you're exceeding track limits, those curbs are really bumpy and shake the car around. If it gets smooth and settled, that means you're out of bounds. Shake and bake, baby.
That's right. If you're shaking, you're fine. You're baking, you're going to get parked or lose a position, something, whatever unfolds here. And there's a look now. This is also a story that we really haven't talked much about. In the CRP racing, de Vilbius MK Mercedes, the orange machine, Michael Cooper, after joining Matt Brabham in the Sprint X finale round in Utah a couple of weeks back, has been put in the car for this final doubleheader weekend here. It's a birthday weekend for him as well, but it's been a little bit of a struggle.
It really has. I actually had dinner with Michael last night, and he just said there's something a little bit quirky with the setup right now. We experienced it at Utah where the car was really struggling in the right-hand turns, and he said here at the Glen you have a lot of them, and it's kind of raised its head a little bit again this weekend. Certainly they had a big incident at Portland with Daniel Morad having a contretemps with Ryan Hardwick, and caused a lot of damage to this race car, so I have to wonder if something is maybe still a little bit amiss there. It's the car that should really excel on this racetrack.
Boy, and Cooper certainly has the skill set to get it done. Of course, co-champion in the GT Sprint X Championship last year, three-time Pirelli World Challenge champion. And then behind him is a great battle in the GTA category, Anthony Imperato. And this is a track, Anthony said, when I got to Road America, he said, didn't have many laps in the GT3R. For starters, certainly not at Road America. He said, here I've got lots of laps at Watkins Glen. And he said, and I've got a little bit more experience now in that GT3R. And he said, I think I'll be okay. And see some of those cars really on those curbs. And by the way, the number 24 of Michael Christensen is the Optima Battery's Best Start Award winner, up 2 spots in that opening lap.
Well, Alvaro there probably right on the verge of getting a warning from the stewards there on using all of that exit curb through turn 1. Baptista has just taken off. Mancinelli's kind of hanging with him a little bit. Then this battle for third.
And Christensen really closed it up on Hargrove.
It was a little twitchy there when he started to load. This is the frustration here. Brent not getting the start. We talked about the start being so critical, Greg, getting the track position, not having to follow in that aero wash. Effectively, that car in front of you is just punching a hole in the air, which helps you straightaway speed the drafting, but it's taken air off that front splitter and off those winglets to help you turn into the corners.
Let's go back and take a look at the start from a little different camera angle.
Here we see it. Hargrove has been super aggressive all season long. He makes the move there and he just opens up the door, and Christensen takes advantage and gets the run on the Bentley. That was tight there.
That close. And Mancinelli, although Baptista is opening it up a little bit, Mancinelli has shown the speed here in the heat too, is driving away from the Hargrove-Christensen-Parent battle.
Both these guys just laid down their fastest laps of the race. Baptista has the edge right now, fastest lap at a 144.9 compared to a 145 flat for Mancinelli. Of course, fast lap today determines pole position and a bonus point for tomorrow.
And the interesting thing here is, throughout practice and qualifying, officials were very much on these teams and drivers about exceeding track limits, and they've given them quite a bit. As long as a tire, part of any tire, is touching the painted part of the curb, whether you're behind it or whatever, you're good. But still, we've had cars that have run well past that, and they had drive-throughs and the like. I'm wondering how that's going to play out here as this race unfolds, and I'm thinking of somebody that needs that fast lap and really goes for one and then has an issue.
Look at Christensen there really having to defend, Greg. That Bentley does have good straightaway speed, and Parent's all over him right now, but it's very difficult to get alongside. When someone protects that inside lane up to the inner loop, it's hard to make all the way around the outside and clear them by the time you turn in.
Right, just sort of dancing around in Christensen's mirrors.
brakes glowing there, those front rotors on the Bentley, just extreme temps here. Very heavy brake zones here at the Glen because of the speed and then the big brake zones. It's a great racetrack. You see Brent just really searching for a little bit more rolling speed from that Bentley to try and be in position here on the straight down to the heel of the boot.
Well, and obviously the issue is if you're in that and you're talking about losing that precious air in the nose, you get the toe, but you get to the corner, and then the car just starts to push, and everything you've just gained, it literally is just washed away almost.
It certainly is, and when we think about that sprint championship, Hargrove in great position right now. I think he's had quite a frustrating year, Greg. They came in with high expectations, knowing the group, the team, and certainly Scott's experience and track record, but to sweep the opening rounds, I think they suddenly thought, you know what, we're the guys to beat for this championship, and they've hung on by just the skin of their teeth, literally, and 8-point lead coming in, but they've certainly responded this weekend. And significantly, he sits 3 positions ahead of Tony Vilander, who's closest to him in that sprint championship.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were just talking about the Ferraris up there, but there's an awfully good one sitting in the second spot, Daniel Mancinelli, Ryan.
Impressive stuff from Daniel. As we've seen all season long, Gregory Romanelli, the team owner for TR3. Let's talk about your driver who's running second right now. What have you heard from him so far about the way the car is handling?
There hasn't been too much communication with the driver yet. We let him focus mainly on the race and having him do a good job. The Bentley is a heavier car, so the tires come in a lot sooner than ours, so I'm sure midway through the race we'll be catching back up to the Bentley. I mean, we're pretty consistent with the Bentley right now, so we're happy with his pace right now. We got a good gap, comfortable gap to P3, so we don't have to worry about any cars behind, so we'll see how the race finishes up, but for sure for the end of the race will be a nice battle between us and Baptista.
Well, we talked about it a little bit on the broadcast already, but a sister Ferrari from another team is racing for a championship. Right now, you guys aren't very close on track, but how would you handle that if the situation came where the Ferrari of Arferi is in the championship hunt and getting past you guys might be the difference for them?
You know, Ferrari's a family, so every team, even if we compete against each other, we're all a family. So right now, we're in our own race. If that situation comes, we'll most likely give them a hand.
And finally, you guys wrapped up another championship in kind of odd fashion with Martin Fuentes earlier. Martin isn't here, but still a champion. Can you take us through what took place with that?
Yeah, I can't say much about that. All I know is Martin left on very good, happy notes. He won the championship, so obviously he's a very happy camper right now. So it's his decision not to participate in the race. So partly I agree, partly I don't agree, but congratulations to him. And it was a great season, giving the Squadra Corsa Garage Italia a hand, and I can't thank them enough for joining us this year.
Congratulations to you guys as well. We'll let you get back to work. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Well, that's a good point about a great season. I mean, for Fuentes, the 2016 GTA champion, got the Sprint X AM championship for GT and gets the AM championship in the sprint category. So, pretty good year. A puff of smoke, was that, or just dropped the tire?
Well, Baptista dropped a wheel coming through turn 6 there, and we saw some other drivers go through it. But to me, it looked like Hargrove may have lost a couple of car lengths. Looked like he may have been either distracted by that sand in the air or just missed his turning point a little bit, but certainly coming off he looked a little bit wide, and suddenly Christensen looks a little bit closer to him.
There's a look at Tony Vilander, again 2-time winner at Le Mans, already the Sprint X championship with his co-driver Miguel Molina, and in a position here well placed in the overall, what they call the overall combined championship. That takes just the total points tally, adding together Sprint X and Sprint. But as we talked about at the top of the show, I think he's going to be frustrated again here. He just hasn't been able to get that win in the sprint, and he sees Hargrove 3 spots up, and they're doing the math.
Yeah, for sure, and I think what that does, if the positions remain as they are right now, it would keep the door open to that overall championship for Hargrove, because right now coming in, Tony Vilander had a 29-point lead, and I think as the positions sit right now, Hargrove would cut it to 23 and win as 25. So if Tony had a disaster tomorrow, it's still open up the door for Scott Hargrove, but he's got more things on his mind right now. That's the cars that are a lot closer to me, and a second lead over Christensen. That's now down to 6/10 last time across the stripe. He's backing up a little bit. I just wonder if the balance has gone away from him.
Well, the back end looks like it's starting to rotate a little bit more than you'd expect.
Yeah, down into this next corner where I suddenly thought he came out of this corner a little bit wide and the gap shrunk instantly between he and Christensen, the two Porsches, as Perrent is still trying to get his Bentley nose in there. Christensen's so savvy, such a great race car driver. Big year for him, winning Le Mans, of course, for Porsche.
You're having a pretty good year in this championship as well with a few wins.
Boy. Rob Spencer in Sprint X, and he won a brilliant race at Road America. Last round of the Sprint Championship, actually, at Road America, when he was running solo there and just dominated day 2.
Boy, Perrent got a tremendous run, just couldn't do anything with it down into the heel of the boot.
He's working him over big time.
He's looking in and out.
Trouble is with the cornering speeds of these cars, they don't slow down much.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You just
yep.
whistle through this corner.
Oh boy, Perrent, that Bentley right now is just stuck.
See Farnbacher hanging with this group, so
Sure
certainly demonstrating that Acura NSX does
Here
have
comes,
some
here
pace.
he comes. He's inside, Cal.
Yeah, and I think he's going to take it. Deep on the brakes there, just got to hold Michael out there. Tony tries to get a run as well. Farnbacher's going to have a massive draft. Look at the hole that's going to be punched in the air by that trio of cars in front of him. And he's going to be super aggressive. He's got nothing to lose. He's not in this championship. It's just a one-off weekend for him. He's going to be looking for some glory right here.
And Tony knows it. Moved over to defend. That's going to send Mario to the outside. It's really tough to do anything from the outside there.
Talking to Tony after practice here this weekend, the early practice, he said we're really quick through sector 2 and 3. He said we're struggling up through turn 1, which is really that high-speed section up through the S's and down the straightaway. And he said we're going to work on maybe taking a little bit of rear wing and downforce out of the car. But you can see there, Mario with the draft certainly had a couple of miles an hour on him.
All right. Nylander in that sandwich, things settling a little bit. Let's check in with the R. Ferry Ferrari team, Ryan.
And who better to check in with than Remo Ferri himself, the team owner. What have you heard from Tony? I'm sure as he's trying to wrap up a couple of the championships here, he'd like to be running a little bit further up. Is the car handling to his liking?
I think the car is performing well. I mean, it's still a very long race. We're here to race. We'll race to the end, so we'll see what happens. But the car's performing very well. I mean, every circumstance is different than the other. I think we had a good year. We'll wrap her up during the weekend, so one way or the other.
Wonderful to see you back on pit lane.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this has been a tough year for Remo on a personal level, and to get that Sprint X championship, I know was huge. Tony says it's my first U.S. championship, but for Remo himself, I think it's very special.
It really is. It's been a really hard year, as you mentioned, Greg. Lost a couple of very close family members, and despite that, the team has battled on and clinched the Sprint X Championship, and they can go for the triple here this weekend. It's not out of bounds for them to win overall and the Sprint Championship, and certainly Hargrove is making them fight for it here.
He is indeed, and after Tony got back up to Christensen just a little bit, that gap has reappeared. And Perrent, after he got around Christensen, is reeling in Hargrove in large chunks, Cal.
Yeah, and that's significant. I mean, Scott's probably going to struggle to keep him behind. There's a lot of time left on the clock here still, and certainly the Bentley is showing its pace with Baptista up front, and Perrent, despite a mediocre first lap, is now struggling his stuff a little bit.
Yeah, and the more I'm seeing, or watching, the more I'm seeing the back of that 96 FAB Porsche is just dancing a little bit, particularly coming out of turns on occasion. It's just really moving around.
Well, you have to wonder what their philosophy was. I mean, sometimes if you start the tire pressure a little bit higher, the car's going to come to life a little bit quicker, but then maybe peak and you overinflate essentially and start to lose grip a little bit. And I wonder if that's what Scott is dealing with right now. But you can see there, Perrent is all over him. But to put it into perspective, the run that Perrent's having, his fastest lap was a 1:45 flat. Baptista's run a 1:44.1. I mean, he is just in the zone here this weekend.
Well, I thought it was interesting what in the pit report for the TR3 camp. That's a good point. The Bentley's a heavier car. Pressures, temps come up a little bit quicker, and then they stabilize, and that they think that that Ferrari is going to be there. Going to what you're saying, I wonder if Hargrove thought, look, let's get those tires inflated a little bit so we get what we need fast because of how difficult it is to pass in these cars. If we get 2 spots, I'll defend.
Yes. And I think that those are the sort of things you have to think about and strategize around. But the weird thing with the Bentley historically, Greg, yes, it is a heavier car. It's going to get energy into those tires quickly, but it's also good on tires over the long run, so it's the ideal scenario.
Well, when they originally designed the platform, they designed it around kind of an endurance format, didn't they, where they wanted to have tires that would live.
Yeah, I think they've worked on the suspension geometry to sort of like switch that around a little bit, compromise your longer run performance over igniting the tire a little bit sooner in the race.
Baptista's got that margin now. You were talking about the laps he's running up to almost 5 seconds already. Mancinelli has another 5 seconds back to Hargrove. But boy, Parent now, that's near attack territory at this stage.
Yeah, and immediately once he cleared Christensen, he just laid a lap down in the 44 range, so starting to demonstrate the pace of his Bentley as well. But Hargrove has sort of found a rhythm again there. I think he was going through a couple of difficult laps here with the balance changing a little bit. And kind of plateaued here a little bit in terms of the gap, which is good for him. He just needs to try and gain as many points as he can on Tony Vilander for the overall championship and consolidate his sprint championship lead as well.
Here's a look at Mr. Mancinelli, who right now is running a fairly lonely second place. You can see the margin back to Hargrove.
Real talented young man, burst onto the scene last year at St. Petersburg. I think he was originally listed as an AM driver because no one knew of his capabilities and his credentials, and we were all scrambling for, through various means to find out a little bit more about him. But
because he put it on overall pole.
Yeah. It's like, what is this team? Who is this guy? And since that time, we've seen certainly ran afoul of the line in terms of driver conduct, I'd say, last year, and got his wrist slapped a couple of times. But despite that, certainly has shown tremendous performance and has really settled into a great driver here in our championship.
Boy, did you see Hargrove just pounded that curb, and you could see it looked almost like the body got down onto the tire for a minute, a little puff of white smoke. So he is driving the wheels off it. And talking about the performance of the Bentley, Ryan, what are they saying in terms of the long-term look at the rest of this race?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to check in on. Thomas Blum is the strategist for K-Pax. And Thomas, what can you tell us about the pace of the Bentleys over the course of a run? How does tire degradation affect what your guys can do behind the wheel?
This weekend we did a lot of long runs on old tires the first day, and the tire deg was pretty minimal. So we're pretty optimistic. Obviously, the cloud cover was there on Friday, and now we got the cloud cover back again. So we think we're in good shape. The car tends to be very easy on tires. Rodrigo out front should be okay. Alvaro's obviously having to push very hard. Didn't have the qualifying effort he wanted and got shuffled back a little bit to start, but he's putting pressure on Hargrove right now, and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, we should be good for tire wear.
Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
You know what? That's an interesting little component here, isn't it? You look at the Porsches, you look at the Ferraris, the Mercedes. They've all run here at the Glen. Bentley hasn't.
Right. No, it's a great point, and you don't have that notebook to work from. But just looking at the configuration of the racetrack, you thought that the car would be good. It showed up and rolled off the trailer. It was quick. I think the other important factor with tire deg, Greg, is you've got tremendous grip here at Watkins Glen. So you're not sliding the tire. The car is biting, it's gripping, and you're not sort of like generating extra heat in the tires.
You're not shaving the marbles off it, is what you're saying. It's just all transferred energy is grip. It makes perfect sense. Alvaro is a wheelman for sure.
He's putting in his homework right now. He's looking for a chink in the armor of Scott Hargrove.
Yeah, we're getting reports from some of the corners that there's some spots around the track that they're feeling a little missed. So that could throw an interesting little wrinkle into things here.
Bentley is British. It should be pretty good in the rain.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you got the driver on the correct side.
Remember that wet session we had at CTMP earlier this year? The Bentleys and the Ferraris really struggled on the wet tires. So if we should see some rain, I spoke to Tony Vilander this weekend about the championship weekend, and he said we should be in great shape unless it rains. And that's not because Tony Vilander, the Flying Finn country, drive in the rain. It's just he feels his car may struggle more than some of the others in wet conditions.
That's a good point because, as you said, at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, I was talking with him. He said, this is the first time in my life I've ever been out of the 107% range.
Yeah.
And he said, and it wasn't because I wasn't trying. We just couldn't quite get the car to hook up and work. So that's got to be of concern. Here's a look at your leader in the GTA category, Anthony Imperato in the Wright Motorsports, HenryUSA.com Porsche. And again, only his second event racing in the Pirelli World Challenge, but at a track he's got a lot more knowledge with, and he's got a bit more time in that GT3R. There's a lot of Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge racing with Wright Motorsports, but this is a little different beast. And he said on some levels, this is an easier car to drive because you've got all the aids. He said, but you've also got massive downforce, and to simply build the confidence to say I can go way past my normal braking point in a Cup car, that takes a bit to work up to.
Yeah, he's a great addition to our championship. It's great to see Wright Motorsports campaigning coming off that championship win with Pat Long last year. But I think for Anthony, he just says everything happens so much quicker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You carry more speed, the brake zones are shorter, the car transitions turns in a lot quicker. So you just have to accelerate everything in your mind and how you're looking down the racetrack to adapt. But he seems to be doing a great job. And if he was to put a full campaign together, I think it'd be very competitive for a class championship win.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I thought he was pretty impressive. He said he would probably give himself a C for what he did at Road America. I thought it was a bit better than that.
Absolutely.
But he said that's all part of the learning curve here. And as you can see, behind Hargrove here, we've got a pretty good stack up, which tells you, and you see lots of lights flashing in the other cars. So all these other guys, pretty confident they could probably run a little bit faster. But Hargrove so far has been masterful in not providing any opening for Parent to be able to get through. It was interesting, before he went on the air off mic, we were talking about a good point of the qualifying. And you said the qualifying session for Hargrove here, in a way, mirrored what he did in St. Pete. Had the mistake and then rebounded and threw down a great lap. And as you can see, there are some sprinkles on the lens here. I wonder if that sometimes doesn't just steal the driver. You have that moment and you go, okay, get that out of your system, let's go.
Well, it depends on the driver. I mean, some people, it can go the other way. You lose confidence, like, wow, how did I lose control there? But we're seeing him attacking the inner loop in the area where he lost the car this morning. We saw him at St. Petersburg, despite tearing off a right front corner by getting too close to the walls. He rebounded and was shaving the walls in qualifying, put it on the pole, and swept the weekend. So he's very strong in the head, Greg, and that's a real attribute to have as a driver. You need to tick all the boxes, setting the car up technically, PR-wise. Having the natural speed, of course, is number one priority if you're going to win races, but having the ability to have a failure of kind in terms of your driving and rebound immediately and not let it get you down.
Down into the toe. What a great corner. Well, one of many here. I mean, you can say that about every spot here.
Every corner is cool. And just fun to watch these GT3 cars performing around this racetrack. But I think Alvaro Parent, again, has gotten into that sort of aero wash of Hargrove and is struggling to really take the full advantage of performance of that Bentley to the position he wants to have. It's just probably 0.5% of aero efficiency you're losing, but it's enough to just stymie the attack. Farnbacher driving the wheels off the Acura, hanging in there behind Tony Vilander. Tony Vilander, he's getting right to the point where he's going to score points here today, and that would have been one of his targets when you're in championship contention. Want to make sure you get to that 50% mark where you are awarded points. Anything less than that, you're going to get a 0-point score, and he's coming up on that right now, so that's the good news for him.
Oh, boy. Parent now, boy, did he get a run on Hargrove up through the S's. He wants that inside, and Hargrove is no way going to give it to him. You can get up along the outside here, but you got to be clear of the guy, really, before you get to the inner. Ooh, Hargrove, big wiggle, though.
Yeah, he's just placing that car. He's hanging on. And this position for Alvaro is not going to come easy, despite Hargrove recognizing the fact he's leading this championship. Don't get too aggressive and get turned. That will just give it to Tony Vilander. So he's in a very difficult position right now. We can see that red Ferrari 3 spots further back. Recognize this is potentially a big day, but with that Bentley and the pace that it's got, we've got to wait and see here.
They're going to watch it again.
just hits that first curb, and then as you start to ask for a lot from the car, he has to take the steering input out, otherwise he's going to spin the car, and behind him Alvaro was just leaping those curbs.
And again, though, a masterful save by Hargrove when that thing started to step out. Just got it straight line and actually didn't end up overrunning that exit curb at all.
You didn't see a lot from the body of the car, you just saw it from the front wheels in terms of he was taking the steering input out, so he didn't allow it to develop. He recognized it early, he recognized I can't keep it the same radius, had to straighten out for a moment, and Alvaro took to the curbs.
And at the end of the lap, actually, that's about as much room as Hargrove has had to the Bentley.
This car's pretty strong through those final couple of corners.
Sure does. Through turn one, meanwhile up front, Rodrigo Baptista has stretched that margin out, Cal, to almost 10 seconds.
This right now, if he can continue, we're only halfway through this race. This is one of the most dominant performances we've seen in the GT class this year in terms of that pole position by a monster amount, and then just putting 10 seconds on the field almost right now is a clinic.
I think Bat likes this track.
He certainly does, and sometimes that can happen. You just get the car set up right, the confidence builds, you got under no pressure, and you're just in a total rhythm.
We just got a report, though, Cal, from the corner marshals down in turn one that it is now turned into actual rain down in turn one. So again, this is a long track, one of those tracks where you can have rain in one area and it could be sunny on the other side a little bit. We'll see just how that affects things here. Mancinelli still second, maintains that 5-second margin or so to Hargrove.
He does. So certainly the team will be making Rodrigo aware of the potential rain down there on the first part of the racetrack. He'll see it, and he can back off a little bit. He doesn't need to take any risk. I think the person who's going to struggle a bit more will be Scott Hargrove. He doesn't want to give up any of that gap he has to the snarling pack right behind him.
Exactly.
But he doesn't want to fly off the road either.
Here's a look at Mancinelli. Now down into turn one.
The good news is the tires will have so much temperature in them right now. They can handle a drizzle like it's really nothing. But if it continues and intensifies, then obviously you start to slow down a little bit, you lose tire temperature, and it kind of snowballs on you in terms of the grip level that you have.
There's a certain point where they refer to just losing the track, and I don't think they've lost the track yet. There may be, as you said, that dampness. And up through the S's we go one more time. Hargrove and Parent. Again, Parent gets that run, but so tough here.
Yes, the mid part of the straightaway where the Bentley seemed really strong.
Are you seeing something on the nose of the Bentley? Oh, big wobble by Parent.
Yeah, I think he had to give up a little bit. He rushed up on Hargrove, had to get out of the gas, just pinned the nose a little bit. When you jump out of the gas pedal at high speed, it just throws weight forward and changes the balance. He had to catch it there and lost the car length.
Let's have a quick update from the pits. Ryan, what are you seeing in terms of weather?
Well, the teams have been pretty proactive down here. Everybody's getting their wet tires down, getting them ready to go, getting all their air guns ready just in case it's necessary. I've checked with a couple of teams. They say their radar doesn't indicate any kind of heavy rain that's likely to arrive, but you never know with these things, and so the teams down here trying to be as proactive as possible. One quick note on Scott Hargrove as well. I checked in with the team about the handling of that car. We've seen him wiggling around a little bit. They said he's doing a great job just carrying that race car. They have not been as fast or as well balanced as they would like so far this weekend, but high praise down here from the FAF guys for their young driver.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He's earned it. It has been a masterful drive by Scott so far in a car that, as we've talked about, doesn't look necessarily super happy.
No, but I think, again, you know, without trying to take too much praise on him, I think he's one of these guys who will step up. Do you know what I mean? He realized this is go time in the championship. It's been somewhat of a frustrating year for those guys. Had a bit of a lean spell, dry patch in the middle of the summer, but they realize they still have the lead in this sprint championship, and I'm sure he's been thinking about it day and night. How can he hang on to this championship lead? And he's done everything he can to do so, and putting in a great performance.
Well, he's won championships before in GT3 Cup competition. He knows how sweet it is, and he certainly has the skill set.
And they ran a lot here at Watkins Glen as part of that championship, so they and the team know the track very, very well.
By the way, getting a word from race control that the 91 of Imperato has been getting a couple of warnings for exceeding track limits in a couple of spots here.
He had a few warnings in qualifying as well. I think he may have lost a lap or two even by doing that.
Yeah, he did during the qual. He certainly won. They took away.
Big climbing elevation here, up and over the hill. Cameras really don't do it justice as you climb and crest the hill right there and then dive down into the brake zone there for the heel of the boot.
This track is one of those that has a number of downhill braking zones that obviously you don't have gravity working for you. On the other hand, you go into the toe of the boot, you're falling away into it, and then you get all that grip about midway through the corners. You get the banking and the climb. And it's just figuring out the physics, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I raced here, I ran a lot on the short course, and then when I got turned loose on the long track for the first time, I really had, I mean, typically, you know, you talk about late apex in a corner, it sounds pretty basic in terms of fundamentals of driving, but I had to really focus through the boot section to really key on late apexes through there, otherwise it just kept tempting you in a little bit earlier, and it took me quite a few laps to get that rhythm down.
Here's a look at Mancinelli once again in the TR3 machine, and got a new sponsor on board. Wanted to give him a shout out, Oprina. Great to have them joining the collection on that TR3 Ferrari. And it was funny when I was talking to the crew a little bit earlier in the weekend, and we were talking about that great battle and that great race and that pass at Long Beach, and he rubbed his arm and went, yeah, I just got chills again. That one was so special. Yeah. And here's a look at Mr. Cooper.
I think as a team and a driver for Daniel Mancinelli and that team to beat on occasion our Ferry and Tony Vilander, that's a real feather in your cap.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Michael, I wonder, obviously a long, fast run like this, how much now, you know, because you've talked about it, Cal, that they said handling's been off a little bit. How much do you learn during the race about what you can after this race now to make some changes on the car?
Well, you can certainly, I mean, during the course of the race, you'll see how the balance changes. So you're looking at, you know, changing the balance from the beginning of a 50-minute run to the end. And they may have made some adjustments to try and get this car sorted out a little bit from qualifying this morning. And it's a directional thing. Was that the right direction? Do we want more of that, or a little? If they made a couple of changes, yeah, a change in the shock was right, but the aero change was wrong, or vice versa. So it's a constant learning game. But you know, looking at the lap times, we expected Michael to be right at the sharp end here this weekend with this race car and with this team, and obviously something is a little amiss because his best lap is almost 2 seconds slower than Baptista. Admittedly, Rodrigo's in his own zip code here this weekend.
Yeah, I'm sure Coop is a little bit frustrated. I'm sure Nick Short and the entire team are, knowing what this is capable of. And you look at the last, the last couple of rounds of the sprint part of the championship, CTMP in particular. I mean, this car just was flying at this point.
And you can see there, he's having to exceed track limits just to get the car through turn one. So it's a good team. They got good support with De Vilbus and everyone else on board. And talking to Nick Short this weekend, he's really happy with Michael Cooper. He also loves Matty Brabs, who did the Sprint X rounds with him recently. So he's got a lot of good pieces in play for next season, and he expects to be back. And I think if he brings both or either one of those guys back, they'll be a force to be reckoned with.
And big things on the horizon in the GT category as well. And here's a good look at Mr. Michael Christensen, currently 5th in the 24 Allegra Motorsports Porsche with the InSync Healthcare Solutions support on there as he just continues to watch that Hargrove-Parent battle in front. And he's been able to gap now. And Farnbacher's gone around Vilander. Boy, that's a big.
That's big for Hargrove. He's looking in that rearview mirror, looking at the Bentley, looks further back. Look at Tony Vilander. He's dropped back a little bit. His last lap, I think, is when he had the move, because Vilander's last lap was a 46.7. Oh, Farnbacher's in the pits.
And I also think I saw Christensen into the pits. I wonder if it's
more rain
moisture
out there than we're seeing, and they're making the call to switch to wets and roll the dice a little bit. Wait and see. No, it's just a single tire going on, so he's having some left rear issues. I didn't see enough precipitation to warrant a change. So he's got some kind of left rear tire issue that he's feeling, or the data is showing, and probably for safety reasons. So So that's good news for Vilander, and timing and scoring. Hargrove in the pit lane. So what was going on there? This is massive for the championship.
Oh my. Well, I saw Porsche. It was a flash. I couldn't tell if it was, I thought it was Christensen, but clearly it was Hargrove.
Yeah, I suddenly looked up at timing and scoring, saw Hargrove plummeting down the order. So what went wrong with the Pfaff Motorsports Porsche? We kind of put 2 and 2 together and came up with about 24, Greg, in terms of maybe they're rushing in for wet weather tires. That's not the case. Well, after such a strong performance and great drive, suddenly Hargrove, he's sort of like struggling for grip right now, so I'd have to imagine he's had to throw a new tire on, just trying to get either a set of tires or a tire up to temperature.
Well, and obviously we just talked about how Vilander had dropped behind the number 91. And how good news that was. How good news that was for Scott Hargrove. And then Hargrove ducks into the pits, and Vilander suddenly was back in 7th, sits 5th, with Hargrove behind him.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's the Honda America race team. I think there may be that tire may have been cut somehow, and they're looking for it. Hopefully we'll find something out as well, I'm sure, about what the decision was for the Pfaff boys to bring Scott Hargrove in.
Well, this is huge in a couple of ways. We're talking about Sprint Championship where Hargrove has the lead. That will be cut into by Tony Vilander, but in the overall championship, Vilander had a 29-point lead coming into this race. There's 25 for a win tomorrow. So as it sits right now, I'd say that Vilander's probably got that overall championship because Hargrove's behind him, and he was the closest pursuer. Christensen only 1 point ahead, 1 position ahead on the road. So I need to confirm this, but things suddenly getting a lot brighter for Tony Vilander in that overall championship scenario.
Well, I'll say, and even if Tony, because he had dropped back another spot, as we talked about, even if he's not particularly thrilled with the car, you know right now he'll do whatever he can to keep it out of pit lane. And its margin up to Christensen still about 4 seconds, so
Tony Vilander, in the space of a lap, lost a position and then gained 2.
yeah,
so the net gain was pretty good.
That's
but
not too
with,
shabby.
Getting around Hargrove with his issues.
Coming up on about 11 minutes left here in this 8th of 9 rounds. And how relieved would Tony be to be able to say, okay, we got that overall championship bagged.
Well, Tony's a talker on the radio, and I'd have to imagine there was a lot of conversation. His engineer is Italian, so most of the dialogue is in Italian these days, but certainly with rain in the air and him not wanting to see any of that, certainly a lot of emotion in that Ferrari here today, you would think, during the course of this race to this point.
Well, and on the other end of things is Baptista, who is just continuing an absolutely dominant drive, clinical almost, 11 seconds up right now in Mancinelli. And not even close in terms of fast laps.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to catch it, but Mancinelli just put down his personal best first sector, so he's not giving up the chase, and certainly an indicator that Ferrari is very strong here today.
And the margin's still back to Parent. He's got for Mancinelli about 9 seconds, so he's got some room. And as we see Scott Hargrove now back up to full Chad, Ryan Marine, what was the cause of that stop?
Well, it looks like cut tires all around. Steve Bortolotti, the team manager here at Pfaff, that was not what you guys wanted to see, with Scott certainly fighting for the championship. What did you hear from him, and what have you learned looking at the tire?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it on the telemetry. It started to go down. Scott came on and said, hey, you got tire going down. We were ready to go on the wall. So I was proud of my guys for getting it done so quick and getting Scott back out there. But getting tired of this luck thing, it's, I don't know. We're, don't want to say the wrong thing about tire brand that's sponsoring the series. So we're happy. It's all good. And, these things happen in racing. And we weren't alone, so there's obviously a problem, and we're going to have to get to the bottom of it before tomorrow.
All right, best of luck tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, well, obviously a bit of frustration there, but, you're bounding over curves and the like, and after the repaving, part of that inner loop curbing and stuff, they discovered the backside of it was very, very aggressive. You catch that wrong, I mean, who knows really what happened, you know?
Yeah, and the series hasn't run here in a long time, so there's you know, building that notebook, high loads, lots of grip here, but certainly everyone at Pirelli will look closely at those two issues and give the team all of the information they need for the race tomorrow. But meanwhile, for Hargrove, it's just damage control at this point. Not a lot he can do at this stage of the race in terms of the gap. He's 19 seconds behind Michael Cooper, so he's certainly not going to catch him unless Michael has an issue before the end of the race.
Now, the one thing he can do, although he's got 3 pretty worn tires still on the car, but with that fresh tire, if he can find some speed here and get a lap in for tomorrow's race, that wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't, but it seems like the peak has gone out of the tires a little bit. A lot of those really fast laps we've done quite some time ago. For example, Baptista's best lap was at 44.1. He's just run a lap just inside the 45 range, at 45.9. So it seems like the pace is dropping off a little bit late in the going here.
Well, and obviously with some reports of dampness in certain parts of the track, that can null that right out as well. So 8 minutes left in this one, which has turned into a race of some intrigue, that's for sure. Imperato continues to lead in the AM category. There he is in that HenryUSA.com Porsche from Wright Motorsports.
It's been a nice performance by him, and a nice performance by David Askew as well. He recently got a class victory in that Mercedes with DT Racing. And I think that team's got big plans for next year. They're going to embrace this new Sprint X format for all 7 rounds of the main championship. And it's a good team. Richard Rader leads that group, team manager. And was sharing some information with me this weekend about the plans they have for next season.
That's great to hear. And he's got laps around here at this track, David does, but it's in a Lamborghini running in the Super Trofeo Championship, but certainly familiar with the track itself. It's great to hear that they're looking at stepping it up a bit.
Yeah, and it's all about a learning curve, Greg. And, you know, he's reducing the delta. The gap between he and the front runner seems to get smaller each weekend. And his confidence is building. And he's putting together his own personal notebook as well as a notebook on the race car as well.
And with all of the developments that are unfolding, Tony Vilander finds himself in 5th, and suddenly, as you put it, Cal, things look much brighter. What's the word from pit lane?
Well, I checked in with Remo Ferri and asked, hey, is the car okay? It hasn't been as quick as many of us were expecting. He said simply yes. Then he beckoned me closer, and he said, we're just playing it safe.
Well, at this stage, certainly with everything that's developed, that's the smart play.
It is, and again, we think unofficially that Tony may wrap up the overall title here with the position he runs in right now, but and he'll the points that they run, I think he'll start to tomorrow's race 5 points behind Hargrove for the Sprint Championship, so that's going to be a fierce battle that'll go right down to the wire.
And right now, his best lap of 44.7. So it would put him up into the 4th right now, it looks like? The 5th, perhaps.
Importantly ahead of Hargrove.
Yeah, exactly.
44.9 is his best.
I'll tell you, Mario Farnbacher in that 93 Acura put in a good lap, didn't he? A 44.3?
Yeah.
And just did that.
Yep, so they changed that left rear, and that's given him some bite and grip.
Coming up on 5 minutes to go. There is Rodrigo Baptista. It's really, to me, an amazing story when you think about it this year. Well, fold in last year when he showed up, nobody really knew what he was all about. Running in the GTS class in the Porsche and put together some remarkable runs. And you went, okay, this kid's got some serious potential here. Steps up to this level this year as an AM. And you think, well, that's good. Year of development. We'll see what he's got. He showed that right off the bat, didn't he?
Well, we've said it many times before, Greg. I mean, he seems to have the personality of a Juan Pablo Montoya. Doesn't really say a lot, even though JPM has certainly opened up over the years and become quite the extrovert in terms of his comments. But when he first arrived here, just did his talking behind the wheel. And I think Rodrigo's of the same mold, just immensely talented, great natural ability. And, a performance like this weekend, you talked about Parent and his experience and speed to have the gap on his teammate like he's had this weekend. I mean, yes, they must have hit the setup spot on with the number 3 car over the 9, but even so, it's a stellar performance.
It is. And I mean, even if you nail the setup, you still have to extract all the performance out of it. And he has done it not just in terms of one lap in qualifying.
We talked about maybe not having the edge left in those tires. Pirelli just laid down his fastest lap at a 44.4, so maybe he's going to surprise his younger teammate by nipping the pole. He's only 3/10 off Baptista's fast lap here, and that's a great lap this late in the going with only just under 4 minutes left on the board. What a lap by Pirelli.
Yeah, it is. And Cooper just turned his best lap of the race. It's not as quick as the others, but again, at least he's finding something. And obviously, fuel load's lightening up just a little bit as well, which makes it different.
44.2. He's only a tenth off Baptista. So, yeah, we saw the team looking at that left rear, but was it a strategy play? I mean, maybe they just think, let's focus on tomorrow and get a fresh skin on the car and lay down a lap time.
Well, there certainly wasn't.
Left front down.
Pirelli pulling off. Yeah, left front down and off. He's just going to try and get that thing back into pit lane. Not sure where that is, Cal. Here's a look at it. The inner loop.
Through the inner loop. There's the curbs, and right now it goes down. Wow, that was lucky.
Ooh.
Right when he needed it. Suddenly lost that left front, peeled it back off the rim as he loaded it through the second part of the inner loop. Lucky he didn't get into the fence.
Absolutely, and that is that curb that has been called to question a number of times, where the backside edge of it is really, really rough, and he was up on it pretty solidly.
Yeah, and I think for the team, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a message going off to Rodrigo just saying, take it easy, don't use the curbs, just got a massive lead here, just bring it home.
And for Pirelli, just trying to limp it around here.
Moves Cooper up to the 5th position, so he gains a spot. The key will be, and Hargrove will probably gain the position as well. So the net gain, Vilander to Hargrove, there wouldn't be a difference here, as Pirelli is going to get to pit lane, but Hargrove will certainly take a position away from him as well once he cycles back through.
There's a look at Cooper down through the 90, as they call it, turn 1.
Using a lot of that.
Boy, he sure is.
I think that's no shaking. Might get baked.
Well, I think at this stage, he's just trying to bring it home and doing whatever he needs to do. And if there's moisture down there a little bit in one, maybe the officials will give them a little bit more leeway.
Team manager.
It'll make it shake or sizzle.
Need you in court.
All right, Brent doing a great job of bringing that car down into pit lane. The crew will get after it, but only a minute 20 to go. Let's go down. Ryan?
Well, unfortunately, this has just been the way the season has gone for Alvaro Pirelli. 4 times this year, he has not completed the requisite 50% of the laps in the race to score points. There have been a couple other instances where he was unable to start the second race of the weekend. It looks like the team has taken a good close look at this. They were asking me what I knew about the tire issues up and down pit lanes, so there's still a great deal of uncertainty surrounding exactly what these problems are, but it's too early to say whether or not this one could be related to the other tire issues we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. We're going to get the checker. We are on our final lap, but I mean, Baptista certainly is driving much more conservatively in terms of the curbs, but not Mario Farnbacher.
No. We talk about Farnbacher changing that left rear. Just laid down a 144.189. Baptista's fast lap at 144.151. So Baptista still has the pole position for tomorrow and the bonus point, but Farnbacher each lap gets closer and closer, it seems. Does he have anything left in the can?
Meanwhile, watching Baptista last time down into the laces of the boot through turn number 6, heading to 7.
Oh, look at this. Vilander and Hargrove have exactly... Hang on, I just cycled again. Hargrove just laid down a good lap, 44.7.
Oh, yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, which is quicker than Vilander, so that's significant for the race tomorrow when we look at the championship implications. Everyone digging deep here.
Yeah, at 44.7 and a 44.77 for Vilander. Yep. That is as close as it gets. Oh, and look at this. Vilander attacking on Christensen. Last lap, down into the toe. Can he pull something out here and gain a few more points?
Pirellis are delivering the performance at the end of this race.
And here we go. Bentley, Baptista, Capex winning again at Watkins Glen for Capex Racing. Bentley getting that first big win for Rodrigo Baptista. An outright sprint win in dominant fashion, Cal.
Brilliant performance as Vilander continues to harry Michael Christensen here for a podium spot. Running out of time.
Through turn 10, last time through. And into the final corner. Vilander's close. Christensen, not going to force him into many errors. And here we go. Mancinelli got second. Christensen brings it home in third, with Vilander fourth and Michael Cooper ending
good run
up in
there.
the top five. Yes, he
catching
did.
those guys towards the end. Mario Falkbach had just backed up his 44-1 with a 44-2, and he's still on another lap here. Can he steal that pole position?
Oh, what a story that would be.
Looking at his sector times, he's close. I'm not sure if he's quick enough to make it happen, but he's digging deep.
Hargrove comes through, gets sixth place, stems a little bit of the flow here. And does a nice job. Here comes Imperato. And he will win in the AM category.
Unofficially, Hargrove maintains a lead, but just 4
Here comes
points in the sprint.
No, a 44.7 still. Three straight, low to mid 44s by Farnbacher.
Front row for the Acura tomorrow, though, alongside Baptista.
Well, interesting little developments here in this one.
Could get tasty.
It surely could. And again, Imperato, the winner in AM, over David Askew. And unfortunately for Alvaro Parent, a little bit of frustration as he stepped out of that car. But we get to do it again tomorrow. And I'm sure, personally, Alvaro will be frustrated, but certainly for the team and for his young teammate, Rodrigo Baptista, this gentleman, what a run. And it all started with an absolutely diabolically fast qualifying lap. And he just parlayed that into a clinical win here and pole for tomorrow.
Yeah, just brilliant stuff. I mean, that was a standout performance. We knew the boy had immense talent, but today was just something else.
He makes his way down into pit lane. And it's going to be fun to hear this interview. As you said, he's been willing to be a little bit more chatty these days, and if ever you're going to chat, this is the day.
Yeah,
with a run like that.
Excited. That's a big moment.
Absolutely.
He's never been short on confidence, but this will be an amazing boost.
He certainly put together.
He did it all from the wrong side of the car, Greg.
Exactly. Well, except, for you, that looks comfortable, doesn't it?
It does. It's a great Poupon.
All right, and yes, absolutely. Out of the car he gets. It's almost like he's savoring this moment. Like, that was a very comfortable seat. And one can understand that. Yeah, look at that. Absolutely. That overall win at VIR, I mean, he certainly played a huge key role in that with his speed and everything. But this is the breakout. I don't think there's any question of that.
Yeah. No, it's you got an amazing yardstick in Alvaro Parent into out-qualifying by a big margin. And maybe Alvaro just didn't get the peak lap this morning in qualifying, but then to do this at the front of the pack. Yes, Alvaro got within 3/10 of him for fast lap, but even so, at that point, Baptista was just stroking the margin at the front.
Yeah, he was, and he's just savoring this moment, obviously. Congratulations. And Ryan is down there and ready to go. And Ryan, I'm going to get it down to you now because this was such an amazing story.
It is a great story indeed, Rodrigo. You started the season in GTA. You get the promotion mid-season. You had an overall win in Sprint X, but to do it by yourself in the sprint category, what does that mean to you? How special is this accomplishment?
No, for sure it's different. It's really special too. I started the year in amateur and I got to pro. I win pro and then I did the pole and now win again. So it's really nice. Just thank the team, Capex. So really happy.
Does this send a message that now you belong?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the first race of the year I wasn't there with the pace, but now I'm there, so I can't say nothing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, he makes a good point. First race of the year. He doesn't have a load of experience starting this season in a GT3 platform car, and it's a big step from a GT4 car. But, boy, he covered it beautifully. And in the end, as you take a look at the results here, 11-point, essentially 12-second margin over guys like Mancinelli, Christensen, Vielander. Come on.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a breakout performance. I mean, we may be talking about this in a few years' time when he's gone on to other major accomplishments in the sport to say, remember that day at Watkins Glen when he put one over on the field, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, speaking of Michael Christensen, he is your VP Racing Fuels Hard Charger Award winner, moving up more spots than anybody else over the course of the race. So congratulations to Michael and Allegra. An absolutely great job. And as you take a look down the order a little bit, 7th overall, Anthony Imperato winning in the GTA category. And Mario Farnbacher with that late surge of laps, starting on the outside, as best as we could tell, outside of the front row tomorrow, is going to be impressive. And these points championships for certainly the sprint category, tighter than ever. Tomorrow's race is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to cover our coverage here of Round 8 of the GT Championship. Don't go too far away, folks, here on our coverage here on the web and on SiriusXM. Within about 3 minutes, we'll be back and take you to the second to the last round of the TCR and TCA championships for the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Watkins Glen, presented by TM Performance.